when it comes to comedy duos, most of them come in pairs. You got Abbott and Costello, Beavis and Butthead,
Drew and Jarrell.
Cousin Larry, and Balky. But
I actually forgot his name until you said it.
but none of those guys, had the unquenchable lust for weed and psychedelic drugs. Although I'm not really sure about Beavis, I have to actually do some more fact checking on him. But there are two guys who found success during like the hippie free love era of the 70s, and that was Richard Cheech Marin and Tommy Chong, also known as Cheech and Chong.
His name was Richard?
Yeah, you know Mexicans have Richard as a name.
Do they? Is that a thing? I don't know a lot of Mexicans, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, you got to go to Home Depot more often then. So the comedy albums that they released, the stand-up routines, and like the movies that we're gonna talk about, that took the world by storm in the 70s and 80s. And then actually, a little backstory on these guys. They actually met in the late 60s because Chong was running a strip club in Vancouver, and Cheech met him there because he was running away from the draft at the time.
These illegal aliens coming into the U.S.,
leaving the U.S. as well,
taking our jobs.
Yeah. When they met, they began performing routines, comedy routines, which led to them releasing comedy albums. Like the first two albums that they released were nominated for Grammys, but by the third album, that won the best comedy album of the Grammys that year. So by the late 70s, the two branched out into films, and then by 1987, Cheech left Chong to pursue his career in the mainstream films. You might remember Cheech was actually on the show Nash Bridges. You might also know his voice work from like Disney films like Oliver and Company and The Lion King, name a few. And you may also remember Chong was arrested for selling bongs through his company Chong Glass in 2003, and he served 9 months in jail.
Low-hanging fruit feds.
They actually reunited in 2008, and they did like a comedy tour, and now they make appearances on stage and other shows like Doug Benson's show, Getting Doug on High, or that Netflix show that's out now, Disjointed. They made a cameo on that once. Drew, you said that you're not really a fan of their work.
I'm a fan of their work. I'm not a fan of their movies.
Okay, so this was gonna be good because what we're gonna do for you guys out, being that it's 420, one thing you guys should not forget about these guys is that they will be dead someday. So we gotta tribute them now.
Probably soon. They're old as
yeah, exactly. It's a good time as ever to tribute them by ranking their films from worst to best. Now for this list, only movies that star both of them together qualify. So we're not going to talk about Born in East LA or the Evil Bong franchise films. There are 8 movies from Cheech and Chong that they did together, and here they are from worst to best. If there's any movie that you saw, Drew, that I guess you said you saw a few of them.
I've actually only seen 3.
Coming in at number 8 as the worst Cheech and Chong movie I've seen is the 2013 film Cheech and Chong's animated movie. Now, this is actually an 80-minute film featuring the boys as cartoons, and they use actually flash animation for it, so horrible right there. That only works for Happy Tree Friends, not for them.
That actually sounds delightful.
Let me go on then. The movie begins with like a Canadian body crab living inside like a girl's vagina. He smells weed on Chong, who's like passing by hitchhiking, and then Cheech drives by. He gets in the car with them. The body crab proceeds to follow them. Where they go, the boys go to like a drive-in. They go home, watch TV. They go to court. They sell drugs at a coffee shop, and then they go to space, all while being high as a kite. You know. Now, you think to yourself, that sounds funny, but this is not actually a movie. What actually it is they've taken all their routine sketches or on their comedy albums and animated them, so it just jumps from one thing to the next. So basically, you'll see like something like Ralph and Herbie when they're actually their dogs at one time, and they have animated dogs that look like them. They're doing something outside. Then it cuts to another thing like Let's Make a Dope Deal, and it cuts to another thing like Sister Mary Elephant. So it's just different things happening. It's not a linear movie. And basically, since Cheech and Chong did all the voices on the albums, they do all the voices to every character in this movie.
I can imagine that being funny, but why do you need the crabs like hanging out and
it didn't make any sense. Like, every time the crab would appear trying to like he smelled the weed, he chased him down, and then something happened where he gets derailed from like getting high with
not necessary.
Like so some stoner comedies like don't require you to be high, but to enjoy it, but it helps. and then there's some stoner comedies that are only funny if you are high, and this movie is neither. Its utter lack of like originality is what makes it worse than the fact that the plot was so random. Plus, it is so unfunny. Like, and not only was this completely unnecessary, but now the movie The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat is no longer the worst adult animated movie that I've seen. So that's that bad, dude.
Damn.
So coming in at number 7 is Cheech and Chong Still Smoking from 1983. And they play like slightly fictional versions of themselves. They travel to Amsterdam to like and they're convinced to perform their live act on stage when the actual talent Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, they don't show up. So they're like, oh, we need you guys. So they go on stage. So the first hour of this movie is them like farting around in like Amsterdam, and like Cheech gets raped by a man while they show clips of like animals like doing it. And the rest of the film is pretty much the last 20 minutes is them doing stand up on stage in Amsterdam like a year before. They just took that footage and put it at the end. With the first half, I was a little bit intrigued with all the political incorrectness, which includes like Chong and like playing like an old black like blues singer in complete blackface, and the scene where like both the guys play like stereotypical homosexuals. I'm intrigued by that, how insensitive the movie is. It's random sketches like throughout the whole thing that they've done before that they're reenacting, and it's got no point and there's no plot going on. So after like 4 of the previous films, I think we all want to see like a movie that had a storyline, And even if we wanted to see like a stand-up film, like not for nothing, Drew and you guys out there, but I think like Cheech and Chong's material is a bit dated nowadays. So like, who wants to watch 2 men on all 4s like acting like dogs like on stage? Why is that funny? So this movie is so bad in some cases. It's actually sold like with another movie because there's no way someone's going to buy it by itself, so they got to package it in with like a better film to get you to purchase it. You've seen it. You said it's okay.
I have seen it. Still smoking.
It's.
I feel like all the with them going to Amsterdam, that should be cut down dramatically or just removed entirely.
It's actually amazing how a movie with Cheech and Chong in Amsterdam could be that boring.
Yeah,
how they pulled it off. It's
but
amazing.
Then like they'll have sketches that are pretty decent. It's like really lowbrow stuff, but it's kind of fun.
It's why it's my number 7, my friend. I'm sorry. So coming in at number 6, and then I feel like now at the point is people are going to be like hating me when I say this, but hear me out. Number 6 is the movie Nice Dreams from 1981. Now, before you guys like come to the studio and burn the place down, let me explain why I ranked this so low. So this movie is they're running an ice cream truck that's like actually a front, so they can sell stolen weed, and the police are already onto them. So like the police are like staking them out, and they spend the whole like movie driving around while they're running into like eccentric characters throughout the film. They had like a premise, no plot. That was the problem. Now, for the most part,
I think that's their problem with most movies.
Yeah, for the most part, every scene involves like random people acting crazy, which goes on for like way too long. So it's like ad-libbing overload. That's the problem. It's cool to see Stacy Keach like come back because he's like he's like a pothead police sergeant because he's in the previous movie that we'll get into. And the film finally culminates with like them breaking into like a nut house where Cheech is actually mistakenly committed. And some of like the patients in there, we get Paul Rubens and Michael Winslow, who does like a dead-on Jimi Hendrix impression, which of course he does. And some may be offended by Cheech because at some part in the movie, in the middle, he decides to like have sex with his like coked up girlfriend who passed out, but she wakes up in the middle of it, so I guess it's okay.
Also, it was the 70s. So.
Well, that's the 81, so it's
same thing.
Yeah. So obviously they were making up the scenes as they go. So I feel like when a scene happens, it's like, then we'll do this, yeah, and then they'll do it.
I think that's my problem with most of their movies is it's like too schizophrenic. Like they can come up with a solid sketch, but if you give them 90 minutes, they don't know what to do with it.
Right. So coming in at number 5, right? Yes, number 5, we got the movie Get Out of My Room from 1985. This is actually the shortest movie that they've done because it's only about 50 minutes long. And it's a mockumentary with like fake interviews with Cheech and Chong and other people as they attempt to create music videos for like the songs from their last album at the time. So if you thought the Spinal Tap movie was the best fake documentary about a pseudo music group, you're right. But this movie is still pretty funny. It blurs the line really well between like, you know, staged and like, you know, believable. And there's some cameos in this movie, like Elvira, you know, is in there. Remember her?
Yeah.
Okay. You got Beverly D'Angelo.
How could I forget?
Yeah, Beverly D'Angelo's in the movie. Remember her?
Vaguely.
She's in the movie. A couple of Playboy Playmates. They do go with that. One of the music videos is in this movie is Cheech's biggest hit song, "Born in East L.A." And some would actually say the video is better than the actual movie of the same name. You know, so.
And those people saying that would be Jarrell.
I haven't seen it actually. I wouldn't say that, but I've read that "Born in East L.A." the movie. People have said that the music video was enough. You know? There's a lot of meandering here and there. That's what you get of a Cheech and Chong movie, but it's the best meandering they've done in a long time. All right, it's coming in at number 4. This will be a shock to you guys. All the number 4 movie is 1984 film, Corsican brothers. They're actually real brothers, right? Not real. Not. I mean, I thought they were named after something, but Corsican.
I think so.
Corsican brothers. So unlike their other films, this isn't a stoner's film. It's rated PG instead of rated R.
Jesus.
Although, I'm sure it would have been rated PG-13 if they had that rating at the time. So it's really adult humor, but it's very they don't curse in it, but they're really sexual jokes throughout the film. I think you said you saw this one before, right? If you want to refresh your memory, basically,
I've seen bits of it.
It's it takes place during like the Renaissance period in France, and Cheech and Chong play like biological brothers who can like literally feel each other's pain, and they attempt to like, you know, overthrow like an evil monarchy. The movie has the humor and sexual innuendos of a film like Princess Bride or the Robin Hood Men in Tights. In a bit of like a role reversal, Chong's character is like a brave, intelligent swordsman, while Cheech's character is like cowardly and not too bright. And most of the comedy involves one brother getting like drunk or slapped or burned or whipped, while the other feels all the repercussions. So that really
sounds like
funny.
something that would get old real quick.
It depends. It pops up out of nowhere. Sometimes you don't even know what's happening to the other character, and then someone will be talking, and then you'll be like, "Ow!" Like, what's wrong with him? And they'll cut back to the other person. He's getting like, you know, whipped or raped or something like that. And like, you know, oh, that's kind of funny. I wasn't expecting that. It's better than when their movies center around like drugs, but this one is decent Saturday afternoon flick. You know, if it's on a Saturday, you're not doing anything in the afternoon.
If you absolutely have nothing better to do,
watch it. It's good. All right, we're coming to the home stretch. Coming in at number 3, really surprise film that I guess you haven't seen either, Drew. It's called "Things Are Tough All Over" from 1982. And Cheech and Chong play like 2 struggling musicians who work at a car wash, which is owned by 2 Arabs who are also played by Cheech and Chong.
Do they do brown face?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
Hardcore. The beginning of the film takes place in Chicago during the winter. After some hilarious mishaps involving them driving a pimp's car through a car wash with the top down, and Cheech taking off his pants and getting stuck in a dryer in the laundromat to avoid getting arrested, which has happened to all of us. Let's admit it.
I think I might have seen half of this.
Yeah. The Arabs used them to like drive a limousine to Vegas. Unbeknownst to them, one of the seats is filled with thousands of dollars of cash that the Arabians are trying to launder, as that's how you say it. The boys give the seat away to like a local gas attendant when they can't afford to pay for the gas. And when the Arabs find out that the limo showed up without the money, they spend the rest of the film trying to like hunt them down in Vegas Strip or like in the desert. And of course, their portrayal of the Arabs is extremely racist, like Drew said, but it's 1982, so what do you want? While stranded in the desert, Cheech and Chong they're rescued by the prop comic Rip Taylor. You know him?
Yeah.
And he spends
that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, he picks him up and he spends like the entire ride back to Vegas telling like corny puns
and just
showing off like the Carrot Top-esque like props and
throwing confetti everywhere.
Yeah, Cheech is like annoyed and Chong is crying from like you know, he thinks he's laughing but he's actually crying from like the humor. But I was laughing my ass off, like, you know, Rip Taylor. I didn't know he was so goddamn funny. Like, you know, he just saying just constant one-liners, and he just kind of crack up at something because it's like he's good. And also, surprisingly, a young Dave Coulier is in a restaurant towards the end making faces at a drugged out, paranoid Chong. And he is only on camera for about 15 seconds, and he is funnier than anything he's done in Full House or his stand-up put together. So that was actually
not saying a lot.
Yeah, that's what made the movie bump up to number 3 for me. That was like, if you can make that guy that funny in like that little amount of time, yes, this is a great film. All right, you guys, coming at number 2 is Cheech and Chong's next movie from 1980, and it's a very funny sequel. Mostly random shenanigans happen in the first half. You get like them siphoning the gas out of a car with like a full garbage can full of garbage.
I remember that.
Great scene. Chong tricks Cheech into snorting soap that he thought was coke. That was good scene. They write 2 songs called Mexican Americans and Beaners, which is hilarious. And of course, the welfare office scene where Cheech molests his girlfriend while Chong sits in the waiting room with like the eccentric Michael Winslow and a randomly laughing old man. All a material comedy right there. However, halfway through the film, the boys part ways, and Cheech awaits at the house for his girl to come by while Chong goes to a hotel to pick up Chong's upbeat Texas cousin, Red, who is also played by Cheech. Yeah.
All goes downhill from here.
I will say the two go off on their own adventure. It involves mayhem, like going to a day spa, which is also a brothel, ruckus at like a music shop, and a riot at the comedy club. All while they're only carrying a boombox and a duffel bag full of weed. Now, Drew, you said it goes downhill after that, and I think the problem I had is, I think Cheech and Chong are better when the chemistry between them is funny as opposed to Chong interacting with like a stereotypical redneck. Even though it is Cheech he's playing it, but he's not himself. So I want to see them together running the streets. Plus, we cut when it cuts back to like Cheech like alone in the house waiting for his girl. The movie like drags at that point as well. So he needs like to be with Chong as well. So obviously the second half of the film doesn't compare to the first, but I thought the first half was so goddamn funny. It makes up for Plus, how often do you get to see Pee Wee Herman call a cop a f***ing asshole? The number 1 movie, which is Up in Smoke from 1978, their first film, best of the best, includes
one of the best comedy movies ever made.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 comedy films of all time. The boys first meet up for the first time. They go get high, go to like a court. Somehow they get the case thrown out. Then they decide to start a band, so they end up in Mexico where they have to drive a van back to the States. The van is like made entirely of marijuana, which they don't know. Unfortunately, the narcotics unit, led by Sergeant Sedenko from Stacy Keach, from his first time with them before. This is before he turned into like a full-fledged pothead in the movie Nice Dreams. He's leading the narcotics team and does know about the band, so him and his like inept like team spend like the film hunting down the duo as they narrowly escape every time. And this leads to them playing at the Battle of the Bands in the Roxy Theater in Hollywood at the end. Cheech comes out in his ballet tutu, and the band performs the song Arachi Miai, which the audience loves, and the rest is history. They drop from the sunset to get into more shenanigans. Not only is this like the best film by them, but it's believed to be the pioneer for stoner comedies. Apparently, there's been no stoner comedies before that movie came out.
I think the best part of that movie is that they don't even know they're being pursued.
Right.
Like, they get deported, and it's almost like one of those movies where it's just like there's like a baby loose or like a dog loose, and they just like keep narrowly like getting killed.
Yeah.
And it was like that, but before that. So they're just like driving around and like they accidentally like, get some nuns in trouble at the border, and then they like drive through in the confusion. They're just like oblivious to it. It's like the same bit over and over again, but it works every single time.
Yeah, that's my list. That's the best to worst of them all, or worst to best, I should say. So, Cheech and Chong, I want to say thank you for blessing us with your brand of adult humor. Your cannabis comedy is loved by all like stoners everywhere, and you guys were truly far out, man.